Like now I know that I'm going to hobby hop, so I'm okay with it. Like I know that I'm going to go from, I absolutely love Pilates reformer classes for 6 months. And then now I'm doing Muay Thai and I'm obsessed with it. I'm even going to Thailand for a month to do a Muay Thai camp if you want to join. But, and that's okay. In the past, I would have been like, no, but I've spent money on Pilates and I need to continue with it. So I think it's that acceptance. Culturally, I think once we are more accepting of ourselves, confident in who we are, and we can show who we are, I think honestly, I don't want to sound too cocky here, but I think people are going to see how amazing we are. They're going to be like, oh, wait, so she's not the person that always needs the emoji this and she needs that and she needs quiet places. She needs this. She's super fun because she's not putting herself in these horrible situations the whole time and she's asking for what she needs so that her nervous system can calm down and her actual personality can shine. That, I think, is gold for everyone.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. If I'm honest, it's a really selfish thing. So for context, both Karla and I had met through our mutual work with Caboose, who you should just check out. We had a Divergent Discussion, which I think they're all very, very cool. You should definitely go watch a few of those. And I basically just wasn't done. And I felt you'd asked me a lot of cool questions, but I wanted to return the favour and hear immediately more about your work and just more about you and your perspective. So I'm really, really excited to learn some more from you. For anyone that hasn't had the good fortune of encountering Karla before, Karla is a psychologist and a PhD researcher. She's focusing on ADHD in women, but the real side, not just kind of textbook stuff, how it really shows up in everyday lives. She's the clinical leads of several startups, for which I'll put the links in the bio because from what I've seen, they're all really cool, doing fantastic work, so people can go check those out as well. And in that, you bringing the evidence-based thinking that you have in elsewhere into communities and products that people will actually use, not just kind of read or gather dust, which I think is so exciting. You mentioned as well that you had lived with generalized anxiety disorder, but an ADHD diagnosis in your 30s kind of reframed that and made you look at everything a little bit differently. And from there, you had a journey to understanding what it actually means when we mask and suppress our emotions. And something that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more is that you relate quite strongly to the PDA profile. So alongside that, if that wasn't enough, Karla also runs private practice with ND individuals and couples, blending, once again, her clinical expertise, lived experience, and human connection. Originally from South Africa, you're living in Portugal, and you mentioned that you've got quite a sense of humour about learning Portuguese. How's the weather at the moment? Is it gorgeous or is it quite grey?
O tempo está pouco melhorar. So that means that
I don't speak Portuguese. You're in good company. I'm trying to learn Spanish, so we have a
Okay.
shared sense of humour that way. Don't worry,
yeah.
you're miles ahead.
Yeah, you have to have a sense of humor. I feel like if you're learning something that's always been quite difficult, so languages has been quite difficult for me. And especially, I think, with ADHD, and you mentioned the PDA profile, with being a woman, I feel like I have to, when I don't want to use the word attack, but when I start something like learning a language, which I know I'm not good at, I have to bring in humor because of that imposter syndrome that I have and rejection sensitivity and all of these things that we deal with as women and ADHD women specifically. If I don't, then I'm just going to feel like a failure. So yeah, it's been difficult, but
No,
it's
completely. I was
ongoing.
talking with a friend of mine about how I hadn't quite registered that, the rejection sensitivity when you're trying to learn another language, that can be there in such a strong way as well, because you're putting yourself out there every time and people are just looking at you, or you've misgendered a loaf of bread or something like that. And it's just tenfold, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because then everything pops up, right? And I know we're going to be speaking about this most probably, but there's a lot of traumatic experiences that comes and bubbles up to the surface with a slight, like, what did you say? That kind of look of someone, you're like, oh, all of these feelings are rushing back, like from when I was a kid, when I didn't know that I had ADHD, and people are like, why are you being so strange, or why are you being so sensitive, or why are you talking so much? All of those things come bubbling up. So it's quite challenging, but I think it's quite good for me to work through this process in a humoristic way.
You've given me the perfect segue. You're so kind to save me from my own tangents. But I mean, one of the first things I do like to talk about as somebody that realised I was autistic much later in life than you would think if I had a PhD in autism. But anyway, how has the diagnosis of ADHD impacted your life, would you say?
So the actual diagnosis was actually it was quite a bit of a relief that I felt when I received the diagnosis. But like a typical ADHD person, I wanted to double check and triple check. So I actually received 3 of the same diagnoses because I wanted to make sure that the person was correct. It was really validating because I felt like, oh, okay, so there was a reason why I did certain things. So it was quite a nice feeling, actually. And then after that, initial relief was oh, now I'm part of the DSM. What does that mean for my career? And what does that mean for my credibility? Because I always thought that you need to not have the thing that you're working on. Like you need to be the expert by not actually going through the process, which is completely the wrong way to think about it now that I know. But, in the past, I thought experts knew everything about the subject matter, but they didn't have that. How
Mm.
could they have that? If you think about a doctor, you don't want a doctor that's sick that's helping you with your sickness. So I was thinking, if I have ADHD, how am I going to support my ADHD clients? And there was a big shift that happened because I felt like I connected a lot better since post my diagnosis. So I started opening up, which was also something that I wouldn't have, like maybe 10 years ago. I wouldn't have told people how anxious I was and the thoughts and the spiraling thoughts and the negativity that goes on internally. And now I just mention everything and it feels so much better. I'm accepting myself a lot more. My clients feel like they can open up more because they also think that, oh, okay, so it's not just me that's going through this. My therapist is also saying that it's hard for her to not receive a reply on a text, or, when nobody is calling, I feel like I don't have any friends in the world, or, simple things like that. And it does make a difference. I think, to answer your question in a little bit more of a typical way, so I'll try and stick to the actual question. It's made a massive difference. I feel like in my life and in my career, I feel like I'm living more authentically. I can connect more authentically. And it definitely has some parts that aren't as great. Some things where, I do open up and I am advocating more. And then I feel like people that get me, like you, we immediately clicked. And neurodivergent individuals in general, I click with immediately. But some people might use the diagnosis against me. They would say, oh, but it's just, your rejection sensitivity and those kind of things. And that really does, that's quite a hard thing to work through, because then you need to reassess who you are vulnerable with and open with.
No, and I don't want any typical answers. I love your answers, so please
Okay,
feel
good.
free. That was so
Nice.
perfect. But even the way you describe it is kind of living proof of that. What I do call it that neurodivergent click. And it's something I'm so interested in because in some ways I'm no different than I have always been post realizing I was autistic. And in some ways, everything is different. But in amongst everything, that's one of the most significant things I've found, is that I'm able to connect with very like-minded people very, very quickly. And I have a lot of sadness about why did I ever, deny myself that. But something else that you mentioned in terms of the way that research is so set up as though there's an authority and there's a subject, of those things are two separate things. And I know, diagnosis or not, you will have always created a very, very safe space for whoever you were talking to. But I can imagine now that space is just that bit different, and there's a real safety in speaking to you. And now you're almost leading by example as well, which is really lovely for you to experience as well with your clients, I imagine.
Yeah, I think there was a difference in the way that I not managed, but I interacted in a sense where, and I'm quite ashamed of this actually, and I have said sorry to some of the kids that I worked with, because I was initially trained in quite a very strict behavioral approach, and we were told that you can one of the sentences I struggle to even say it, but one of the supervisors told me, "You can make any child talk." And I remember hearing this, and something didn't sit well with me, but you have this little bit of a God complex back then. I was really young. I was in my 20s, and we were taught that you just have to do this type of approach, and then the child will learn, and it's autistic kids that we worked with, right? So when I walked away from it, everything just started feeling I felt uneasy, and I started working more, speaking more with autistic individuals, and they were like, no, it doesn't feel right. We're not working on our interest. And that's when Nanette and I started an interest-based approach. Back then, it was like 15 years ago or something, we created a company called AIMS, where it stands for awareness, interest, movement, sensory, which is something 15 years ago we didn't really talk about that much. Oh, the sensory profile. Now it's more spoken of. But I don't know why I'm speaking about this. I don't even know what the question was here. What's
There
the
wasn't one.
question?
We're just talking, aren't we? So that's my fault. This is the thing I've got to remember. Send the questions in advance, but also stick to the questions because
No, I
you just
love
talk about
it.
interesting things. But no,
Yeah.
I do appreciate you being so open, because it's really challenging sometimes to look back on things like that. And I know it's easy, or I know we can say amongst ourselves, it's proof that you have grown and changed and we look at things differently, but it's still really tricky to look back on it and be like, oh gosh. But you can't even say, I wish that didn't happen, because that's part of why you're here now, fighting for what you're fighting for. But no, it's tough, isn't it? Something I'm interested in that runs through as a thread of lots of your work and lots of what you talk about is what the internalization of ADHD might look like day to day. So I guess what we're facing currently is a lot of people not having the support they need, the diagnostic pathways not being available, and there's going to be increasing people that are struggling, but perhaps without the language and the support to know why that is. So I imagine this is going to be something increasing levels of people will face. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's a difficult question because this is specifically what my research is focusing on, is the internalizing characteristics of ADHD women before we're diagnosed, and how that presents. And usually, this is why I was diagnosed with GAD, general anxiety disorder, is because I would come across as quite anxious. And I was, but it was a symptom because of all the masking and the camouflaging and pretending that I'm this person, or I should be this person. So it presents as anxiety, it presents as depression sometimes, OCD, because we're trying to manage what's going on inside. So we're trying to find control, and do certain things so that the world doesn't feel as unsafe, and our nervous system feels like it can regulate by finding these like specific things. Like, we have to wake up, we have to do this a certain way, we have to exercise 5 times a week, we have to eat this healthy meals, because if everything is in control, then it doesn't feel as uneasy inside, which is okay. Like, it's okay to have control over certain things in your life. I eat the same breakfast every single morning, and I'm never going to change that. But yeah, this is great. But we need to work on inside as well. So the internalizing feeling. So it doesn't really present, it's more of a feeling, and really sitting with that and saying to yourself, if something feels extremely hard, and for the person next to you, it might not, like getting up in the mornings, or cooking, or cleaning, or going out, meeting friends, making plans, sticking to plans, waiting for a date, all of these things. If I think about another person, to them it might be really easy. It's like, oh, potato, excuse the pun, but what do I eat today? Or, oh, I have a date in 3 days. It's perfectly fine. For me, I am constantly overplaying everything, what I should be doing. Why am I overthinking this? It's these thoughts. And then it turns into, from the thoughts, from the spirals, it turns into exhaustion. It's like it's that dip, that dopamine kind of crash. If that happens, then I think that's a good time to say, okay, let me speak to somebody that actually is going through something similar. Um, do I ask a friend that I trust? Like, do you have these same thoughts? And then we can start opening up and finding a way to support ourselves. But I think it's being open about what are you struggling with, and do you think or do you feel like another person is struggling as much? If they're not, then it's something to speak about.
Yeah, I completely agree. And either what you'll find is, like myself, you find very similar, like-minded people around you, and you can help each other and you can lean on each other. But sometimes the most useful thing somebody's ever said to me is, no, not everybody feels like that. And that's actually very useful in itself as well. It's a different kind of challenging, but it's good to kind of, I guess, recalibrate yourself, especially when you're, like we said, suppressing it. It can be really challenging. That's really useful. Thank you. And like you said, you were mentioning there, kind of checking in how you feel with yourself, checking with others. At what point would this kind of internalizing become harmful, or you've mentioned in some of your other work, even pathological?
When it becomes something like a physical symptom, and this we often get with smaller things that could, I mean, I'm saying smaller things, but for me, like, this is maybe too much information, but when I'm anxious, I have to go to the toilet. Like, it's just something that I have to do before an important meeting, after an important meeting, sometimes during. Now that can become something that's chronic, and it's not just that. It's like symptoms like my neck gets really red. It's actually okay. Well, it's pretty red there. You can see it's already
Yeah, a little
starting.
bit.
And it goes up, like we used to call it when I was younger, the flush. So it would like flush up. And that's, in the past, I would cover it with scarves and makeup. And I would just be like, no, but I can't look like this. And now I understand that for me, this is an anxiety provoking situation because we're being recorded. It's not a normal conversation, even though you're lovely and I feel very at
I
ease.
don't take it personally, but I get what you mean. And you're
Yeah.
talking about things that you research, and that kind of dynamic, and even fun things can be a type of stress, can't they? So I get it.
Yeah, exactly. But if you know about it, then you can manage it. You can say, okay, this is an acute stressful situation, and that's okay. Like for me, this is acute, but it will pass. Now, if it becomes something that happens too often, it becomes chronic, then it could show or present itself in a different way, right? So it can become, you can have like a stomach ulcer or other chronic illnesses, and this is when we really are suppressing to the extent of damaging our bodies and our mental health, of course, too. So I would say, and there's so much research coming out now with chronic illnesses and neurodivergent individuals and the high rate of the comorbidity of it. So I would definitely see it as it's all interlinked. I mean, our body and our mind is connected. So the way that we're suppressing, it's going to show up in different ways. And just to add, sorry, this is a bit of a caveat, but we are not always so good in identifying our emotions, right? So when we're feeling a certain way, we might be saying, oh, no, that's normal from whatever reason, trauma, or alexithymia. So it can be that we don't have the language to explain what we're feeling, but our bodies will know. So if your body is showing up in different ways, that's a bit abnormal or maladaptive. Take care of those signs. Your body is really trying to tell you something, so listen to it. That's what without trying to sound like a lecturer there.
No, that is so useful. And it's something that I think I'm not even done telling myself. And I think having come out of years and years of masking, I wouldn't even claim to be past it. That is one thing that I'm actively trying to repair, is noticing how I'm feeling. And a lot of feelings feel very similar for me. I was saying to my friend the other day, it's a big source of frustration that for me, excitement and anxiety feel very similar. And I often have to sit and work out which one I'm feeling,
Yeah.
but also trying to repair what I think has been broken, a lot of the connections between how I'm feeling and how it makes my body feel, and trying to repair those. And when I get stressed, does that disrupt that connection even more? So I think it's very, very useful advice that I continue to take myself. And it links back to what we were saying, talking to as many people as possible, because you give more people the opportunity to say, actually, I've noticed a pattern in you. Like, I'm personally terrible, feel awful, don't know why, neglect my needs. And luckily, if you've got somebody you can trust that can say, hey, there's this thing you've neglected, it can be really, really useful.
Yeah, but just on that, just to find the people that you trust that are going to notice the things that you should be doing, and not, in a good way, like a self-help,
Yeah.
like you said, but not not increasing the masking, because that also happens. Like, oh, you're getting sensitive again, Karla, or
Yes.
those kind of things. So just being careful with who you choose in your inner circle, and making sure that you've got a safe friend that you can say anything to. And I guess, like, for us, when we choose our friends that are neurodivergent themselves, that usually is the case. So they do understand. They've got that empathy. But yes, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, completely. And you mentioned that we often try to fix anxiety. How do you think, I love this question actually, but it's a tricky, big question.
Mhm.
How do you think we tell the difference between something that is internal that we're facing versus something that is environmental?
Think that we internalize, and again, I'm just going to focus on my research because I do have a lot of papers on this. But as women, we do internalize so much that's gone on outside of ourselves, and we we tell ourselves it's our fault or our responsibility to change it or be a certain way. So outside environmental challenges becomes our challenge. And it's very difficult to see it as one or the other, because unfortunately the world is too loud, too bright, too unpredictable. There are people that do lie, don't know why, do lie, and most people do lie. And some people hurt us, and we gather data as neurodivergent individuals. And once our system, our data system shows that, oh, we can't be trusting these words because it's incongruent with what people are doing, then it's very difficult to open it up again, that trusting system. So it's not a question that I can actually answer. I think the only thing I would say is to keep your circle very small again, and making sure that when you feel a certain way, to ask yourself if it is because other people are saying that you shouldn't feel like this or react like this, or is it actually how you're feeling? Is that intensity something that you're feeling from inside? Then a shopping mall at a certain hour is just too loud for you, and that's perfectly fine. We can change that. We don't have to go at that hour. A barbecue with 10 or more friends is too much to expect from you. That's also fine. Um, you know, Even other things like cooking dinner, for me, I'm always using my examples because it's so relevant for me. But cooking dinner for me, I absolutely hate it. So I'm not going to do it most days of the week. And I have a person that helps me to cook meals, and then I freeze them. And I know it's not the healthiest, but this is how I survive and not feel shame, right? But if I ask another person my age, is this normal? A lot of people would say, no, you need to be able to cook, Karla. You're 41. What's wrong with you? And if I listen to that, then it becomes an internalizing issue again. So I think we need to make sure that we break the two apart and say, okay, be congruent with the intensity of your feelings, because I think that's where we really go wrong a lot. As if I say one thing that we are doing wrong is we're not giving ourselves enough credit of how intensely we feel emotions. We're just saying a lot of times, I just need to get through it. I just need to get over it. I'm too sensitive. It's not that bad. She can do it. Why can't I do it? Those things. If we can change that, if we can say, but I am feeling this feeling, it is this intense, and then give that feeling some credit, then I think we can actually really work towards true acceptance and being authentically us.
Yeah. And I think we're going to come back to what is a theme of what we're talking about, those people that you trust, who you choose to be your trusted network. And I'm very, very lucky, but also it's not luck, is it, who you've got in your circle that are kind of spiky profiles are complementarily spiky. So where I'm struggling to do a phone call, I've got somebody that's like, I'll do that, that's fine. Or one of the things that I do to de-stress is cook. So I'll very happily then deliver food to people. So defining those people that are
Nice.
like your complementary spiky profiles is I highly recommend. And I think we should set up some kind of network for that so you can trade favors.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would always listen. So I'm like a great listener. I love listening, even though it doesn't sound like it because I'm talking a lot today. But I could always listen to stories. It's like one of my favorite things is just to be there for people. And a lot of people need that. So I could do that. And then you can cook for me, Carrie. This is
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
This is
And I would,
fun.
this is the thing, I'd happily cook and I would talk to you all day long, but
Awesome.
make a phone call to order a Chinese. No.
Okay, I'll do that. I could practice my Portuguese for that. So
Amazing.
brilliant.
Perfect.
Nice.
But to bring us back to the question, which I think you answered a tricky, messy situation really perfectly, in that these things are not one or the other. Why do you think it is that so many of us, particularly women with ADHD, end up blaming themselves rather than looking to their environment when much of it actually is environment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a combination of gender. Like we grew up thinking as a woman. I think, like again, I'm just gonna focus on women, right? Sorry, but it is, and I can say for all genders, like we grow up in a society that says kind of like you need to fit in to survive. And if you're the outsider, if you're saying this is too loud, and I'm seeing this even at the university where I'm at. I'm the one that's always advocating, you become the problem many times. It's like, oh, Carla's always saying something. So it's obviously her issue, but that's just me advocating for myself. So it's difficult because we want to be advocating for our needs, but we want to do so in an environment where people are taking us serious and seeing it as an actual thing that they can help us with. So I would say that it's a lot easier to then just not speak up because we don't want to be those people that are looked at. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of ADHDers do not want to be in the spotlight. And I know a lot of people think that we do because we speak so much. That's a neurological thing that we speak a lot because we're sharing. And I'm really enjoying this conversation. So I want to share more. And, it might come across as I'm king the conversation, but I'm really just like, I just want to give you pebbles. Have you heard of
Yeah.
that pebbling thing?
Yeah.
I want my pen. But it's sharing because I care, and that comes across as, oh, okay, this person is talking and they want to be in the spotlight and so on. And then when we're advocating on top of that and saying, oh, these lights are quite bright, then we might be seen as the people that talk a lot and they've always got an issue with something. So there's so many things like that that pop up. And I think then with the added gender perspective, if you're a woman as well and you were brought up by saying you just need to be the one that's social and everybody's got to like everybody, and you got to keep the people together, because if you think about way back when, like with hunters versus gatherers, like that's kind of still in us, right? Like we're the ones that need to make home and make nest and so on. And I mean, I'll make a home for my dog and that's it. The other people need to really just follow suit. Maybe that's why I'm single. So it's there's a dichotomy there, because we want to speak up, we want to be advocating, but there is still a bit of stigma and environment, and not like more of a community issue where people won't take us as serious. So I think it's small steps if
Yeah,
there's a
completely.
solution.
I think it's so complicated, isn't it? And like you said, and gendered, and something that I don't think is solely a neurodivergent thing, but I've had a lot of my neurodivergent friends talk about is particularly of socializing, or if somebody's very chatty. We're acutely aware of like the energy in the room, and often we'll hold the energy of the conversation. We feel very personally responsible for that because of a mixture of, RSD and loads of different things. There's a conversation, if there's a lull, we feel like, oh, it's because I haven't been doing my best. And actually, this is a conversation of 8 different people. Why do we always feel so personally responsible? But I think it's such a messy pot of the way women are socialized, very young, like you mentioned, of, the way we are very sensitive to people's energies and things like that. It's so tricky. Such a lot of things are just all wound up together, isn't it?
I think what you're saying is so true. Is like that feeling of we need to hold the room always because we're so sensitive towards other people's feelings, right? Like we can just feel if somebody is a bit sad or needs to speak more or wants to be in the circle, and we kind of bring them in. Or if there's a silent, like an awkward silence, I always felt like I needed to say something. And this is where it's really good to live in a country where you're not that great with the language, because I can't. Like I'm like, down. So that means so. So I'm like, no, just look around in the room, and then that's it. That's what I can bring to the table. Yeah, but it's practicing as well, being in that awkward moment and not feeling like you're responsible to carry everything. And then seeing, oh, okay, it's not your whatever is the saying of like something to carry. What's the saying? I'm so bad with sayings.
I can't remember. I'm right there with you, though. You've conveyed it very well.
Okay. All right.
But as you were saying as well, I think with that as well, we know so acutely what it is to be on the outside of those conversations or to be kind of looked at differently. And we don't want anyone else to feel that way either. So I think mixed with that, there's that as well. So it's a lot, isn't it? But yeah, completely. For somebody that says, I love silences, I'm like, why don't I do it more? Maybe we'll just have the rest of this recording just doing sort of parallel play or doing our own things.
Can you imagine how awkward that would be? I'd be like, "Are you okay, Carrie? You're all right still?" Just I can do it with pets though, eh? Like I think that's a good practice actually. Like with my pet, I don't have to speak to him all the time. I don't know if you can see him, but he's over there. I mean,
What an
yeah, it's
absolutely
very.
gorgeous baby. What's their name?
His name is Boris, and he's from the streets, but he's the cutest dog ever, and he's so good for my nervous system because he's just always like calming. But I can be quiet with him, so I think actually that helps a lot. Is like creating a space where even if you have a family, to create a time in the day where you're not expected to do something because like the expectations really do feel like they kill us sometimes. So even if it's just an hour of the day where it's just your time in the room or your time outside and nobody is expecting anything from you, your phone's not there, that would be great. It's a good practice.
Yeah, I feel like I always need that time where I'm not being perceived by anyone.
Yeah, being watched. I hate
Yeah.
that feeling. Ew. Did you also have this? Like, I had this when I was a kid that I felt like there was a camera in my room. So,
Yes. See, I read about that. I felt like that so often.
yeah.
And other people have mentioned that. Other neurodivergent people have been like, is that not normal that you don't
Horrible.
kind of,
It's a
yeah.
horrible feeling. I used to get dressed behind my closet door because I'm like, there's a camera somewhere. I cannot stand that feeling.
Yes,
I think
I
that's the
relate to that
PDA
too.
profile, though.
Oh, bless you. I think that's something we haven't spoken about yet at all. Have you always kind of known that it was PDA profile you were dealing with, or is it something you kind of found language for much later after your ADHD diagnosis?
Much later. I only found the language that fit me perfectly was PDA probably about 2 years ago with my therapist. He said, "Oh, this is the persistent drive for autonomy." And I was like, "Well, I didn't,
Hang on, what?
yeah, persistent. Like that sounds right. Like what is that?" And I've heard of pathological demand avoidance, but that didn't ring or fit really true for me because I wasn't avoiding. I was really just I wanted to do it, but on my own terms. I didn't want you to tell me how to do it. So, and there's a reason for that. It's not because I'm difficult, because that's what I've heard when I was younger. It's because I wanted to do it in my way perfectly. So I'm still a perfectionist, but I didn't want to follow your script. And I'm not saying you, but anyone's script, because if I did it according to their script, I might have failed. So if I did it according to my script, I knew that I would do the best as I possibly could. And also that's that feeling of being watched and feeling like you're being observed and tested the whole time. Oh, it's a horrible. Yeah, but PDA to me, it made so much sense, and it's helping me a lot to just understand who I am, explain who I am to another person. Like if I date somebody or my friends or my family, I'm like, okay, if you tell me that, or if I say that you need to be here at 1, please don't be late, because that to me is very disrespectful. Like, say to me, you need to let me know in advance. That's a combination of maybe the ADHD and PDA, but PDA, understanding it makes a big difference.
Oh, that sounds like very healthy communication and boundaries as well, to be fair. Do you feel that other people know quite quickly what you're talking about? Or I'm never sure how much just within our own bubble kind of these acronyms are, but I imagine that when you explain it to people, like, yeah, makes sense. Or are people a bit more baffled?
I don't know. I think, like, for me, it's obviously the people that I work with, like people that I interview or my clients, they understand it a lot faster and they get it. The people, I mean, yes, of course, my friends are, a lot of them are neurodivergent, but they still don't understand the abbreviation. So the more I explain, the better, actually. And I explain it in terms of not so much about the abbreviations or the actual conditions or profiles. I explain it rather than I say what I'm feeling. So when I was at a noisy restaurant with two of my girlfriends here, I explained to them, look, it feels to me like that child that's shouting over there is inside my brain and scratching my brain. Like, that's how it feels like. And then I showed them my neck, and my neck was super red. We even took a photo. And I took a photo. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a video on this later on. So can you take a photo of me? And my friend Sophie did. And my eyes, like, you could see, I couldn't even look at the camera. My eyes were like this, like going to the side, because I was so dysregulated. And I was completely flushed. And I don't even remember what we spoke about that evening. It was just a noisy restaurant. Nothing intense happened. It was just, there were kids shouting, and it just was over the top. So when I explained to them and showed to them, then they were like, okay, let's leave. So we ate really quickly and left.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it as well, because I always say, when we talk about neurodiversity, two autistic people are still neurodiverse. And actually, from one autistic person to another, if someone says, I'm autistic, it tells me absolutely nothing about what they might need from me in that moment. And acronyms are really useful to a degree, or labels of any sort are really useful to a degree as a shorthand, but there's only so much they can do. So if you're able to say, this is what it shows up for in me, those people that you care about will be able to show up for you as well. One thing that I'm really interested in getting our opinion on, especially the way the conversation's gone with kind of these gendered things, how can someone unlearn that feeling of being too much? You be a rich woman. Give us an answer. You can be so rich.
This is why I'm a therapist, Carrie. No, I think, and for me too, right? Like, I'm still learning that as well. What I did do, and this is just kind of like off the cuff, if that's a saying, I think that is a saying. Off the cuff, what I started doing was to write a manual for myself, and the people that I date. So I'm single, but I'm dating, and I would then write how to date an ADHDer and how to date as an ADHDer. So it was like a little bit of a manual that I picked up with the people that I dated. So I would be like, okay, well, I need consistency. I need somebody that, like, sends me a good morning message and a good night message, not because I'm jealous or want to know where they are. It calms my nervous system. Something in the morning, something at night. It's like a coffee and a tea. That's what I need. I need that, like, the morning kind of little bit. I don't want to sound like ChatGPT here because it uses the word anchor so much, but a morning little milestone, let's call it something else, and a night milestone. And then I know, okay, finished. And it's simple things. It's really like, that's something that I found made it easier for another person to see, oh, okay, so she's not actually too much. She just needs these things. And once they're in place, I'm one of the easiest people. But I need...
what you're asking for.
It's not
easy
that
peasy.
It's so easy, right? But it's easy for us as neurodivergent individuals. For another person, it might be, oh my God, you need an emoji in the morning and an emoji at night, because I also need an emoji. I don't need just a good morning. It needs to be an emoji because I like emojis.
What do you mean you don't want a full stop?
No, or a K, or like or a thumbs up. No, thanks. But it's simple things. Okay, so that's the one thing that I would say is, like, to take what you need and write it down, or just mention it to yourself, and then ask yourself, like, is it really that much? Like, it's Honestly, I don't think it is. It's we need consistency. We need people that truly want to get to know us, and then opening up about like what you want. Like the too much that we hear is just us at this point of no return. So usually when I'm at that point, when I lash out, that's me needing to suppress. And then somebody says, "Do you want coffee?" And I'm like, "No, I do not want coffee." But it's not because of that. It's because of they knocked on my door. I said, "Please don't disturb me because I'm busy with a podcast." And then they sent me a message and I said, "Please remember that I'm on a podcast." And then they opened the door and they said, "Do you want coffee?" So it's the third time. This is just one example. But if we're open about like our needs, and we say to a person, "Okay, look, this is what I require," and we immediately communicate that when it doesn't happen, then we're not going to reach that point, hopefully. If that person still opens the door and asks coffee, they do need to be shouted at. Like that's that's not okay.
Completely appropriate. And I
Yeah,
was going to say, it's kind of like a litmus test, isn't it? Because one of the things I have to get more comfortable with, that I guess that was kind of a loaded question. One of the things I get more comfortable with is, even with all this, you are still going to be too much to some people and not enough to other people.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's okay.
And
And
that's okay.
actually, if what you're asking for, an emoji at morning and at night, someone's going, "Well, I don't want to do that." Okay, adios.
This is exactly it. That's exactly. I'm so happy you brought that up because there are going to be people, and probably quite a few people, that will say like, this is I can't have this. I need to be I can't have certain expectations or ways of interacting with somebody. I think it's good communication to be open and, like that. But certain people don't want to connect like that. And I've had people like that in my life, and that's okay. It's perfectly okay. It's actually just helping us audit who we need in our lives. And we definitely need to be a bit more selective of the people that we're opening up to, because I mean, this is like a Pandora's box that I'm going to open now. But,
Oh, okay.
here we go. With ADHD women, because we're so hypersensitive to another person's needs, and because we like dopamine, and because we like to have that unpredictability, but also the predictability, the predictable emojis, but also the excitement of like, "Hey, do you want to go skydive in the middle of the day or the week?" Attract a lot of people with the same kind of profiles, which aren't always congruent to our profiles. So it might be profiles that are like that give you that intensity in the beginning, and then they dip and they stop giving it to you. So it might be the love bombing in the beginning, and there's a high percentage of ADHD women that go for those individuals that are giving you all of that excitement, and then they pull. And then because of our rejection sensitivity, we go towards that. So we want to please because we're people pleasers, right? Because we want people to know who we are. Deep down, we know that we're cool people. I really hope, I really hope the people listening to this knows this. I love neurodivergent individuals. I think we have this layer of like people don't accept us for who we are because they don't see us. But I know that it's there, and I just want people to be more accepting, loving, and finding those people that they can be themselves with.
Yeah, that's the main part, isn't it? When we're talking about, being able to advocate for what you need, that's all well and good if you're there, if you're able to, realize that actually so many of us are raised or socialized to people please, and actually, hang on, what do I want? What are my very reasonable needs in this situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like we immediately need another conversation just based on kind of all these sorts of things.
Relationships, yeah, just
Yeah,
relationships and ADHD and or woman and neurodivergent woman. Yes, for sure.
that would be a whole series in and of
Serious.
itself. So, if more women understood their ADHD through this lens, I guess, of self compassion and trying to destigmatize and community and connection, what do you think would change for them, either personally or culturally?
I think I mean, I could speak about me and my clients and my friends that have been more compassionate towards our needs. And I'm definitely less feeling like my anxiety is a problem. So I'm still anxious. I'm still going to become anxious before these types of talks, before conferences, even speaking up in public, but I am okay with it. So I can do it without feeling like I want to vomit afterwards or needing to rush to the toilet. So I'm not, it doesn't have a snowball effect. It's, yes, there's still anxiety, but I've made friends with my anxiety. So it's part of who I am. So it's that acceptance, I guess, too. It's a real love for who I am. I absolutely love who I am. And maybe I'm a bit in denial here, but I still think I'm pretty cool. And luckily my friends do too. So maybe we're all in denial.
I can verify this. I've got an email full of photos, and also I've had a few conversations with you. Very, very cool.
Okay, thank you. Yes, okay. So I'm going to take that to the grave. But I think it's, I think personally, I think it's giving confidence. It's like living your life as you want to live it. So being more authentic, of course, doing the things you love. Like now I know that I'm going to hobby hop, so I'm okay with it. Like I know that I'm going to go from, I absolutely love Pilates reformer classes for 6 months. And then now I'm doing Muay Thai and I'm obsessed with it. I'm even going to Thailand for a month to do a Muay Thai camp if you want to join. But, and that's okay. In the past, I would have been like, no, but I've spent money on Pilates and I need to continue with it. So I think it's that acceptance. Culturally, I think once we are more accepting of ourselves, confident in who we are, and we can show who we are, I think honestly, I don't want to sound too cocky here, but I think people are going to see how amazing we are. They're going to be like, oh, wait, so she's not the person that always needs the emoji this and she needs that and she needs quiet places. She needs this. She's super fun because she's not putting herself in these horrible situations the whole time and she's asking for what she needs so that her nervous system can calm down and her actual personality can shine. That, I think, is gold for everyone.
Yeah, I think so. I always say amongst like my closest friends, my closest family, I'm just the biggest weirdo. I'm really goofy and really like you just spend the whole time laughing. But I think that's just feeling safe around people, isn't it? And just being able to be, yeah, the biggest weirdo. I'm not at all cool, but that's fine.
No, I'm saying that it's probably a masking thing. My best friend here, she told me the other day because I was very regulated, and she looked at me. She's like, "Please bring your ADHD back. You're so boring today." And I was like,
My
"Oh,
friend
this
said
is
that to me the
awesome."
other day.
Is it?
You're so calm. Are you
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's wrong with you? She's like, because she was like, why are you pausing and waiting? And I'm saying something, and then you're saying something, and you're not interrupting me, and you're not telling me random stories. She's like, please just bring it back. I miss it. I'm like, yes, okay. Somebody loves me for who I am.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
I love
she's
that.
awesome.
I love that. This is finish with a nice, easy
Okay.
question for us all. What is one small shift or one small thing you would recommend for people who perhaps relate to what we've mentioned today?
I would say sit with yourself, just by yourself, and go through what you feel like with certain activities, with certain people. Go through your life systematically. Say to yourself, okay, how do I feel with my pet? How do I feel by myself? How do I feel with this friend, with this family member? Doing this activity, my work, everything. I mean, obviously, we can't change everything, but we can slightly adjust things. So we can adjust the amount of time we see this person. If we notice that this person is actually making us feel quite anxious, like my neck is more red when I'm with this person, or I'm feeling like I need to mask more with this person, then let's put a boundary in place and see this person if we have to see them, if it's a family member or I'm laughing because I'm just using personal experiences here, but if it is like a work colleague, maybe we don't have to go and sit with them during lunch hour. So I would say to really get to know yourself slowly and calmly and lovingly, and then putting these things in place so that you can create a life where your nervous system is not always feeling like it needs to fight, flight, freeze, fawn, make jokes, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things that we do to get out of situations where we can just, like now, be who you are.
Yeah. I love the way you worded that as well. It's like slowly and lovingly, because I think we know where we want to get to, but sometimes you say, what makes me feel good? And actually the question is, hang on, what is even good? I'm in survival. I don't know what good feels like
Totally.
for me. And then, the baby step might be not doing anything about it, but how am I feeling? Do I feel good right now? And then kind of making those associations. So I think lovingly and slowly, I like that a lot, a lot. Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Just to kind of end, just so people can kind of remain in contact and find out more about all the fabulous things that you're up to. Is there anything exciting that you're working on at the moment that you definitely want people to go and check out or direct people to? I know you sent me a message the other day about some really exciting stuff with one of the startups as well that you mentioned.
Shame, yeah. This is so many things. Like, I mean, you mentioned that I work with startups, and I do work with, at the moment, 3 different startups, and all of them are exciting in their own right. Caboose is more for neurodivergent adults, and then Orly is more for parents and kids, neurodivergent kids and neurotypical kids, and then Think Sensory is more for kids that are needing sensory input on a daily basis, but also training for teachers. Um, I would say, like, just I don't really want to plug anything because for me, it's more about just if somebody is relating and they need support, they can always contact me. I mean, I'm available. I do one-on-one therapy. It's pretty busy at the moment, but I am gonna start like an ADHD group for women. So maybe they can make contact and I can add them to the waiting list for that. Because I feel like we need to, like you said, we need to create a safe space for us where we can share with like-minded individuals. So I would say
Mm,
just stay connected. I mean, we can all share and learn from one another.
yeah. Where's the best way people can reach you if they did think, I love what Carla spoke about. I want to find out more immediately.
I share quite a bit on Instagram. So my Instagram handle, I'm so bad with social media. My Instagram handle, almost a title, is at therapy.neurodivergent, or they could just go to my website, karlapretorius.com with a K. And then they can email me or message me, and hopefully I will get back to them. But just, I do have ADHD, so I don't always get back to everyone immediately. Sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's
Nice.
fantastic. I'll pop links for all of that and more in the bio just in case anybody wants those or wants easy access. But just thank you so much for your time. Our conversations are always so. I remember last time I said just left with our cup feeling full. So, as I say, purely selfish endeavour to just be like, hey, I want to talk to Carla again. So, thank you for making time in your incredibly busy life for
Thank
me.
you. Carrie, that was awesome. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. So yeah,
Oh,
just anytime you want to chat, I'm
bless
here.
you. Thank you.